Today on the Sartorial Chef, we're exploring the lighter side of breakfast, starting with a citrus salad featuring grapefruit and a honey dressing. Then, it's a parfait with yogurt and a homemade granola topping. Then we move on to my cranberry almond scones with an orange glaze. And lastly, poached eggs over toast. Doesn't that just whet the appetite? So why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me? Back to the kitchen, guys. Today is the lighter side of breakfast. And to begin, I'm making some cranberry almond scones. Now, I have a really simple scone recipe for you guys here. And first, we're going to start with my wet ingredients. I'm using my food processor to mix this up, as opposed to doing it by hand, because I'm working with cold butter, and that is not as easy to do by hand. And the reason you want cold butter is it's going to give you a flakier pastry. So you always want nice, cold, hard butter. Okay, so we're starting with a cup of milk. And then I've got 1 egg here. Just going to throw that right in. I always like to wash my hands off when I'm working with raw eggs. A teaspoon of vanilla extract. And I always just use the lid because it's less dishes. That's about a half a teaspoon. Now, our butter. To help move this along, I'm going to go ahead and kind of cube it up. We need a ½ cup of butter, so that's just 1 stick. And I'm just going to cut this into quarters here. This is going to help it break down easier in our food processor. I'm just going to plop that right in. Now the reason I start with my wet ingredients, if I do my dry first, and then I do my wet and it kind of sits on top, when I turn this on high, it's just going to make a mess. You're going to get just wet stuff everywhere. So I always like to do my wet first. Okay, we've got some sugar here. I'll be doing about 1/3 cup of sugar. Okay, that is 1/3 cup. And lastly, our flour. And we need 2 cups of flour. The trick with flour is to not overfill it. I always like to level it off. With flour, you can pat it down and you can fit more in here, but that's going to give you a much denser pastry. So you want to just be real careful with it. Okay, just a little more here. Okay, that is 2 cups. It's okay if some spills, because we're going to need it when we roll our dough out. So there is our ingredients. Okay, move these out of the way. And we are ready to go. You want to be careful not to overmix when you're working with flour, because you can overwork the gluten in the flour and you're going to end up with a really chewy pastry. So you just want to kind of pulse this until you see it together. The butter will kind of break down into like little pea-sized pieces. That's exactly what we want. And that looks pretty good, I think. Get some more stuff out of the way here. Now, these are cranberry almond scones. So I've got some cranberry almond pieces here. I found them together already, so killing two birds with one stone. And we're actually going to be using this later for a granola topping. Okay, so I'm going to take a little more flour here and just kind of spread it out on the board. And we're just going to come in with clean hands and work this pastry. So get everything off the blade there. You want to be careful with the blade because it is sharp. I'm just going to take this, scoop all of this out. And as you can tell, it's a little sticky here. This is why we've got the flour out, because it does want to stick. Make sure we get all of this out. You also want to be careful working with this because you've got the butter here, and the butter will start to go soft on you the more you work with this. Now for a topping, I'm going to use about half this container here. Now I'm working this in now as opposed to when we mixed it in the mixer here, because these pieces, you know, they'll break down in the mixer, and I want nice whole pieces of the almonds and the cranberries. So I wait till I've got my dough together, and then I'm just going to kind of fold it in. I want to make sure each piece has a nice bit of the cranberries and almonds in it. Okay. This looks pretty good, I think, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse my hands off here. They're a little sticky. Sometimes cooking is a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. Okay. Rinse my hands off here. I'm going to get my knife out. I'm just going to cut these into little pieces here. You can make them as small or as big as you want. I've got a baking dish here, and I've just greased this to keep them from sticking. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down the middle here and score these. And then come across. I think we'll get 8 pieces out of this. Nice generous sized pieces. But like I said, you can make them as big or as small as you want. And then I'll just transfer this right onto my baking sheet. What I like about these, they're not uniform. So they're going to come out different kind of sizes and shapes depending on how you cut it, and that's how you know it's homemade, because it's not something, not everything's uniform and put together like if you were to buy them from the store. So that's why I like these kind of rustic, kind of baked goods. Okay. Alright, this looks pretty good. Got a little left over here, so I'm just gonna stick that right on this guy here. Awesome. Alright, I'm going to stick these in and clean up, and we will move on to my citrus salad. Stay tuned. Alright, I just put the scones in. They are going to bake at 425 for about 15 minutes. And next, I'm going to work on my citrus salad. I've got some grapefruit here. And I'm just taking the skin off of this grapefruit. This is just a ruby red grapefruit. I like them because I feel they're a little juicier as opposed to like a traditional grapefruit, which is a little tartar. But again, it's just a matter of preference. If you like the other grapefruit bread, or that's up to you. And I'm just going to cut these into little segments. Now the trick to cutting citrus, if you look closely here, you can see the little lines here. What you want to do is cut in between those lines, and that's where the fruit is. And then you just plop it into the bowl. And we're just going to go around. We're just going to go around this whole thing here. And I've just got one orange and one grapefruit. And onto my orange. And we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to come down here and get rid of this bitter rind. Now I do like, sometimes I'll zest some of the peel, and that's good in certain things. But once you get deep into the rind, it's just very bitter and it's not good. So we're just going to cut that out. Just like with the grapefruit, you can see the lines better on the orange. We're just going to come in here and cut these out. And I try to do it over top this bowl here because they are juicy. And it does like to get everywhere. So you just kind of come in here and cut out these little segments. What I like about this, it's a nice, fresh, simple dish. You know, a lot of times for breakfast I want like big, hearty meals to something for my stomach to sit on for the day. But some days I just want something light, just something to fill me up. So that is our citrus. We'll get rid of these guys here. Now this is a really simple marinade I'm going to do here. Now we're going to do a couple tablespoons of sugar here. It's a tablespoon of sugar per citrus. So if you wanted to make like a bigger salad out of this, so just a couple tablespoons. And again, you can make it as sweet or not as sweet as you want. I've also got some honey here, so we don't have to use as much sugar because I've got the honey. And then the sugar, it's also going to break down the natural juices of the citrus here, which is going to give us a little bit of a dressing here. And I've got some honey. I'm going to do about a tablespoon of honey. To cut through some of the sweetness and to play with the tartness of the citrus, we're going to do about a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar. And to really take this to another level, I've got some fennel seed. Now what I like about fennel seed, it kind of has that licoricey taste. I don't need a lot, so we're going to do about an 1/8 teaspoon of this. Just enough to know it's there. And then we're just going to take my spoon here and we're just going to stir this all together. Good. And one last thing, a little acid. So I've got some cherry vinegar here. And I'm just going to do a couple teaspoons of the sherry vinegar as well. And that's just going to give it more that kind of acidic note. It plays nicely with the citrus. I'm ready to give this a taste. It's nice, it's light, it's a healthier breakfast alternative. And it works great like it's just a salad if you're ever doing like a side dish for something. But you can also put it with like yogurt. I even like it with like mascarpone or something, just to make more of a meal out of it. So here it is. And I love, you can see the fennel in here. It also gives a nice little bit of color to our dish. And I'm just going to come in here and give this guy a little taste. Mmm. Mmm, so good. Just burst in your mouth. You get the sweetness of the honey, but then you get that zing of the sherry vinegar. Mmm. Absolutely delicious, very refreshing, and good for you. Next, I'm going to show you a quick little parfait, and then we'll finish off our scones. Stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back. Continuing with the lighter fare, I'm showing you a really simple yogurt parfait. I've got just some traditional Greek yogurt here. Now what I did, I took the rest of my cranberry and almonds, but I've also got some brown sugar, I've got some steel cut oats, and I just drizzled that with a couple teaspoons of honey. And we're just going to throw this in the oven for a few minutes and just let everything get nice and toasted. And I've still got my scones in here, and they look like they're ready to come out. So I'm going to get my cooling rack here and set that up. And pull out our scones. We're going to let them cool, and then I'm going to make a fun little orange drizzle to go on top. Okay, go ahead and set our timer off here. Oh yeah, these look good. They've puffed up nicely. They're nice and firm. I'm just going to set these here and let them cool off. And I'm going to make a little drizzle real quick. For the drizzle, it is powdered sugar. I'm going to do about a ½ cup of powdered sugar. About a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then I've got my other orange here. Cut this baby in half. We're just going to squeeze this right into here. We only need half the orange. We're going to get a lot of juice out of this orange here. So I'll save the other half for some juice. And then my whisk. Just come in here and mix this together. Just a nice simple topping. Once those have cooled off. Now the granola should be ready to come out. It only needs to be in there about 3 to 5 minutes. You don't want it to get too dark. And you can see this has gotten nice and toasty on us here. Set that aside. We're done with the oven. Off she goes. Now for the parfait, I've got a little spoon here. And you can layer this if you want, but I'm just going to take a dollop of this yogurt here. I'm going to come in here and grab some of this delicious topping, sprinkle it right on top. A simple, easy breakfast, but it is so good for you, and I have to give this a taste. Mmm. Mmm. Very good. The yogurt is nice and tart. It's got some protein in it from the nuts here, and then you get a little sweetness from the honey and the cran raisins. Mmm. And the yogurt, it's very filling. So this is something that'll really get you going for the day. Absolutely delicious. Mm. Now it's time to move on to our scones. I'm just going to get a little platter out. Get a spatula here. These guys should come right off because I sprayed the pan pretty good, yes. We're just going to slide them right onto this plate. And the recipe I made here, this makes 8. Again, it depends on how big you cut these. And I kind of like them to look a little oblong because that's how you know they're homemade. You could cut them into squares if you want, but I kind of like the rustic look when I'm baking. Okay. And then we've got our glaze here. Spoon this right on. The orange, I think, it's going to give us a nice contrast with the cranberry. I love orange and cranberries together. But also, the bright orange color is going to kind of give a little color here to our scones, because they are they're a little on the blonde side. Not much color to them. But here we are, cranberry almond scones. And I think I'm going to have to give this one a little taste here. Mmm. Mmm, so good. So what happens is the butter slowly melts and it releases steam. And with the eggs, that causes this to rise. So you get a nice crispy exterior, but the inside is nice and light and fluffy. Then you get some texture from the cranberries and the almonds, and just that nice bright hint of orange in the glaze. So good. Absolutely delicious.
Last on the lighter side, poached eggs, so stay tuned.
Right. Last on our light breakfast menu is some poached eggs over toast. Now, I love eggs, especially a runny egg, but fried eggs, they're kind of greasy and they're not always the best for you, although they are delicious. So poached eggs are a nice alternative. So I've just got some cold water here. I like to start with cold water and then cook everything in the cold water and let it slowly come to temp, because you're going to get a more even cook. So to this water, I am also going to add a little vinegar here, about a tablespoon. That's going to help the yolk stay firm, and the white, and help the hold the whites together too, so the eggs don't fall apart in your water. Now I'm going to get this going here, just on a medium heat, and I'm just going to gently drop my eggs into the water. You want to be careful not to break the yolk, so you want to be really gentle dropping your eggs down into the water. Then I'm just going to come in here with a knife and kind of swirl the water around. That's also going to help keep the eggs from falling apart on us. I like to salt my water as well, because that's also that's going to add some flavor to the eggs, but it's also going to help get our water boiling faster. And I will pop a lid on these babies and let them go. They're going to cook. They're going to cook for about 8 to 10 minutes. Once the water gets going, the eggs shouldn't take much longer than that, so you just want to keep an eye on them. You want the yolks to be still runny, but you want the whites to be nice and firm. So about 10 minutes on that. In the meantime, I'm going to prep my bread here. Now we're going light, so I'm just going to do 1 slice of bread. And I've also got some multi-grain wheat here. It's about half the calories. And I love, I'm one of those weird guys that loves the heel. So I'm actually going to use the heel. Because the crust is the best part of the bread. It's better for you than the base of the bread. So I'm just going to have my 1 slice here. And I'm just going to spray this baby with a little avocado oil. We're going to be healthy here. I'm not using butter or anything. Just spray just a spritz on that, and it's going to go into my toaster oven here. And my bread and my eggs should be done around the same time. Alright everybody, it's been about 10 minutes. I'm going to come get my bread out. I love something nice and crunchy with a runny egg. It's a nice play on textures with the soft egg and the hard toast here. I'm going to turn this off. It's been about 10 minutes. Alright, our eggs look good. The whites are nice and firm. And the yellows, you can tell, are still runny. Okay, now we salted the water, but I'm going to give it just another dash. I'm going to throw a little pepper on here too. Just a little. Okay, now we just need a fork. The best part of a runny egg is when you cut into it, it oozes all over the plate. My favorite. Eggs are probably one of my most favorite foods, especially for breakfast, but I could literally eat them any time of day. And you can hear the crunch of that bread as I dig into it. Ah, so good. Just a simple poached egg over some toast. Quick, easy breakfast. So good. The yolk is just luscious, melts in your mouth. And the bread, nice and toasted. Normally I do like butter bread or like jelly, you know, something like that. But to kind of cut down on the fat a little bit, the avocado spray. It's a nice little trick. So that was breakfast on the lighter side. As always, like and subscribe at the bottom. And until next time.